all the company on the board level will think about second source. Mm-hmm. The single source supply is gone. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work. Charles.
Hello, Zizi. I think for an international corporation such as the one you were working with for years, do you think corporations will go the political route of less efficiency but more politics or political objectives?
Well, for the new investment, they need to look into that, because I think the risk is high that if you cannot supply because of the COVID, right. So the saving of that 10-20% for the component actually costs hundreds of thousands of dollars of losses. Mm-hmm. So people need to think about it. So every company on the board level, on the strategic level, to think about, okay, if that happens, and how much does it cost? So I'm willing, like buying insurance, mm-hmm. to spend so much actual cost, maybe set up another company, maybe set up a different second supplier to prevent that risk.
Alternative sources.
As an alternative source. So I can imagine right now is that regionalize. For the next 3-5 years, I think the trend is going there. After 5 years, maybe people come back together. The sense will come back together, hopefully. Not only Asia. I think I can see that American will have also from South America, from Mexico to supply. Mm-hmm. I can see that factory will be built up in Eastern Europe. I mean, it can be by a Chinese company. It doesn't have to be by the multinational in the past, right?
Like so many Chinese companies investing in Vietnam and Thailand, exactly. And so on.
Exactly. And we need to learn about that, right? Yeah. So it's not that easy. Oh, let's set up a factory in Czechoslovakia, right? It's not that easy, but you need to learn. But I think it makes a lot of sense because China is becoming a little bit more expensive as well. Mm-hmm. Our labor get highly paid.
So what you see possibly in 3 to 5 years is first regionalization. Yeah. Secondly, alternative sources of the supply chain.
Absolutely.
With increasingly cord in, let's say, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, and possibly Mexico and South America. 3
regions, right? Because they're all connected together. So this sea route of being interrupted mm-hmm. is much less likely to happen, mm-hmm. right? They are all connected with the trucks.
In terms of Europe and Asia, the land path,
yes,
Belt and Road Initiative, for example,
correct.
The rail transport instead of waiting for the sea lanes,
yes,
that may have more significance than we had originally conceived.
Correct. That helps a lot. But I think if you do the calculation, unfortunately, the sea transport is a lot cheaper than...
Not right now.
Not right now, exactly. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. When the whole tide went down, when it became stabilized a little bit, people probably will still come back to partial shipment out of the sea. But I think, again, it's more coming from the robotics coming in, the automation is coming in to set up a factory in Europe. Probably not that much more expensive than they would have set it up the same factory here in China, which is like 10, 20 years ago. The salary difference is so high, so China becomes such a competitive market. But now the cost is also coming up.
Well, the cost of salaries, of course, has come up quite a bit in China. But one of the things that I heard is it's more than salaries.
Correct.
But China has a more efficient infrastructure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How does that compare in terms of Vietnam coming up and so on?
Well, I think you need some time. I understand it will take some time. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. Every company, I mean, Siemens, ABB, or Sandvik, if we want to build up a factory in anywhere in the world, mm-hmm. they will be able to do it. Mm-hmm. Right? They will ship their experienced people over there. They will go give the drawings, everything.
The electricity.
Yeah, everything can be done. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think China will continue to be a very competitive country.
Mm-hmm.
I just see that all the company on the board level will think about second source. Mm-hmm. The single source supply is gone. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work.
The days when they were trying to assemble notebook computers of Mac in Austin, and they have to ship even screws from Shenzhen.
Yes.
That's over. Now, how much does the issue of market factor in terms of the ultimate buyer of your goods and services?
What do you mean, like the size of the market?
For example, one of the things that some Western companies, the leadership tell me that they cannot let go of the Chinese market.
That I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Example,
very
Volkswagen.
Important. Very important. China is, China is probably 40% of the industrial goods of the world, plus minus. I think incremental even more. So we were doing the calculation, actually, the absolute amount every year in the industrial side, China is probably 30-40%, depends on the sector, but some sector will be 50, 60, even 70%. But incremental on the industrial side, China is probably even bigger. So China is a huge market. I don't think any company will be ready or even thinking to divest from China unless they are forced. So China will continue to be a very, very attractive market for any size of the company.
So the market size, as well as the continued, I guess, some measure of higher efficiency of manufacturing in China will keep the Chinese growth story on for some time.
Absolutely. I mean, the problem we see from the Chinese company, obviously, if you have a Trump, the U.S. put up the duties and tax and everything, and suddenly your product can be 40% more expensive or 60% more expensive, and they cannot sell it to that market anymore, right? But I think that's why China is important, realizing that, and that we have to find a new market, and the One Belt, One Road initiative, Southeast Asia, the Africa, and maybe even the Europe. I think the European countries in general are less politically driven than the US. So I think China need to work with those regions and make sure our product fit into the consumer of that countries as well.
Now there's quite a bit of talk about WTO being reformed and restructured, and then the formation of all these regional alliances, regional free trade zones, and so on. And in fact, the latest yesterday I heard was that the Gulf countries, Cooperation Council countries, are talking about a free trade zone with China as well.
Great.
RCEP, of course, is a good example. What do you think will happen in 3 to 5 years, let's say? Will it continue to be dominated by the WTO because there are measures being implemented by the US which seems to detract from continuing using the WTO as a core?
Let's say the regionalization and everybody work by themselves, you're actually adding costs to most of the companies. It's not economical. You know, even I was talking about free region. It's inefficient. It's cost more. The consumer has to pay that. So the poor people probably also doesn't get what they deserve to get out of it. That's why WTO was such a great thing for the rest of the world, not only for China, right? So I think eventually, I hope that the world realize that and we go back to a cooperation. In what shape or form? It's a new form of WTO. That's probably a good thing. But I think we have to face reality is today, this force is very strong with the regional things. And as a company, Chinese company or Western company, will probably look into that and make sure the supply chain is robust. And by setting up another company or factories in the other part of the region. But again, I'm really thinking that when common sense come back, we realize that economics is the fundamental for the wealth of the 7 billion people.
I think it's really unfortunate when you think about this. It's common sense that the duties imposed by the trade war on Chinese goods to the United States had actually impacted on U.S. consumers, U.S. corporations, predominantly. And that given the high inflation rate, even senior U.S. officials are now talking about if you take it off, gee, that's 1.3% off inflation. But they still won't do it.
It's politics,
reasons.
right?
Exactly.
It's politics.
So when politics of government, it shows exactly what you're saying. They don't take common sense as a guiding standard. That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate,
What do you think about RCEP? Do you think it has a chance to expand further and bring India and possibly some of the other big players in?
I think yes, but at the same time, I think we need to understand that how do we adapt the system and make every member company benefit out of that. I think that's very important. And I keep one word from one of my friends to say, hey, if you are the bigger boss, right? The big boss, right? And how do I say that in English, right? It's 老大是要吃亏的. That means if you are the bigger one in the family or in the society, you have to benefit everybody else at the same time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what it is. If I said maybe China is the biggest one, we need to reach our hand to make every member benefit, and then we benefit the most at the same time. I think that is the most important. The business is about win-win for everybody, and I see a good chance. And China is such a huge market. I think China is very open. We don't really. I think the consumer, I buy whatever is the best performance for me. I don't care where they're coming from. Right?
That's right. The only sector which is not doing very well right now with COVID is hospitality.
It will go over, right?
It will blow over.
Yeah.
Well, we just hope that the COVID thing blows over.
We have to manage this country, really learn to overcome this difficulty, and we need to make the economy back on track again, because that's actually another risk. If we block it too long and the component cannot go out, you give more excuse to the other party. My counterpart in Mexico, you say, I want to set up a factory in Mexico because China cannot supply.
That's right.
And then I cannot win. Huh?
And then hopefully that this Ukraine issue gets resolved as well, because it's impacting on European economies very, very seriously. Now, coming back to the WTO, what is the big complaint of the U.S. over WTO on the trade settlement side, where they've been boycotting the trade settlement dispute settlement mechanism?
I think they just blame that they are the losing party and not the winning party, right? The other guy get all the benefit, I don't get my benefit, so I just don't follow. They just,
The judge rules against me, so I'm leaving the court.
Exactly. But I think they need to come back as well. I think if the rest of the world come back together, I think that's why it's important for China to take the leadership of really work with all the other countries and look, let's form a country of a market that's big enough. That's 70%, 80% of industrial market, and then U.S. will have to learn to deal with it.
The globalization, not only in manufacturing, but I think globalization in the formation of a global market has really accelerated in the last 10 years too, because of information flow.
Yes.
Smartphones.
Yes.
When you get a couple 100 million smartphones shipped to Africa every year, people who never had bank account, never had information, now have access to the internet. So there is an element of globalization of the marketplace as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. China have done it for our rural countries, right?
Yeah.
A lot of farmers in Sichuan can sell their vegetable and fruits by phones, by platforms, right? That can be done for all the African countries. I think the new technology can help all those developing countries to come up much faster.
Well, let's just hope that the rapid rise of China in terms of its economy and better livelihood of its people can also spread to other parts of the world.
It will be. It will be. I think that's the politician as well as the entrepreneurs, the business people's responsibility to work with the other partners, to work with developing countries, to make sure that the people there also get benefit of this globalization. There
is a study done by a UK group, but it wasn't published eventually, and I read the draft of it. It said China's rapid rise has brought over 400 million people out of poverty in China.
Yes.
But it has also brought 1.3 per one out of poverty in other parts of the world.
That's another 500 million or something.
Yeah, that's another 500-600 million.
Yeah.
And that's maybe Africa and South America because of trade and so on. Well, let's just hope that U.S. comes back to the world, to the global corrective mechanisms to solve global problems.
Right.
Let's just hope that the efforts that the U.S. have made to counter that can be at least slowed down a little bit and let the rest of the world continue to grow and develop.
Yes, let's all hope for it.
Can only hope for it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Xijin.
Thank you, Charles. It's been a pleasure.